Everybody, welcome back to my videos concerning Beyond Earth, and now it's expansion Rising Tide. I'm glad to finally get here and get to this point where we can start talking about Rising Tide. And some of you had questions about how good is it, should I get it, all this other stuff. So I'm going to talk about that and a little bit about how good it is, and some of the nitty-gritty details that unfortunately people never discuss unless you're on the forums. So these are all from my perspective, and I've played a decent amount of the game. I think I have like 100 and 200 hours maybe. That's obviously including the base game, so I actually haven't played the game as much as I thought I would. Part of the reason is because I played other games too, and it was not as gripping as I hoped it would be. It was not as it didn't have it, I guess. But let's move on and let's see what we got going on here. Alright, so what would I rate it? So the original Beyond Earth, I would rate a 70. Now the way I kind of think about it is 70 is like, okay, this game's passable, it works. It's there. Am I enjoying the crap out of it? Definitely not. So I would say 70 is like just a fair score. Fair. 80 to 89 is good. 90 to 95 is like great. 96 and over is like excellent, or nearly perfect. So 70 is like mediocre, or 70 is like fair, mediocre to fair. So, 70 is more like mediocre. And going down to the 60s, I'd also say is just when it starts getting games start getting unplayable. So, I gave B a 70%, because it worked and everything, but it wasn't gripping. It was all right. It was not a game that I felt like I had to keep playing. Once I played like about 100 hours tops, I was just like, I'm pretty bored. I was achievement hunting pretty quick, and it was just, it wasn't what I was expecting. It worked, but it wasn't what I was expecting. So Rising Tide, I gave a 79%. That's more so because I think it's not a good game. It's all right. But I think to pass into the 80%, the game has to be good. It's not. It's all right. It's a work in progress. But saying it's good means it's got some replayability, and it's got the same issue as Beyond Earth, the regular game. You play at the beginning, you're like, okay, this is decent, because you play the beginning of it, and you're like, okay, well, there's got to be more to this. That's the assumption as you start playing, but suddenly you just hit this wall where you're like, oh, this is all there is to this game, and there's still a lot of issues, and so you quickly hit that point. So at the beginning you might play and be like, okay, I think this is going to be really good, but then you can get a little farther into it, and you can kind of, the curtain is revealed, so to speak. Good games don't really reveal that. They let you explore quite a bit of it, and let you play the game a lot until you can really understand what's going on and appreciate the greatness of a game. But in this one, you quickly get to all the new stuff that was added, and when the fun of that wears off, you realize this is not enough to be a good game. And I have kind of a hard standard, but that's just the way I see it. I think if you're going to be in the 80%, you really need to it needs to be a game that you want to keep playing. So so anyways, as you can remember last time, it was I think it was 50 or 51%. I forgot what it was, the approval rating of the base game. This one has gotten an 83%. So people were happy with it, but again, the problem with this one is it's just who recommends it, not who it's not an actual rating for the game. It's just the percent of people that are actually saying, I would recommend this. That's all. So although this rating is decent, it's not the best thing you could have. Alright, so why am I doing this? Well, Oh, well, why am I giving this score? And then I'll go into why I'm doing this. Yeah, so I'll go into why I'm doing this first. So I just hope, for Axis, if you're watching this, that you take this into account, because my guess is you're probably going to keep working on this game, and you're probably going to come up with more. Hopefully another expansion, because this game, in my honest opinion, this game needs at least 2 more expansions to be on the level of Civ 5 Brave New World. At least 2. This brought it to vanilla level of decentness, but there's still broken things in the game. This game's like, thinking about it, with 2 expansions for every game, this game has not reached the level of Gods and Kings. Now, it may have a good amount of content in it, but it's still an overcomplicated, in a lot of ways, game, and there's too much stuff that doesn't fit well together. And Civ 5's mechanics and everything fit well together. They made sense. They were easy to understand, easy to grasp, and were very deep at the same time. Like you could, the difference between a deity player and I'm an immortal player, it would still be massive, but the game would remain easy to start and understand, and on a basic level, and everything fit well together. And in this game, there's a lot of overcomplication of things, and a lot of things that aren't very clear in terms of what their point is, and a lot of systems that fit in awkwardly. So I'm doing this so that hopefully Firaxis sees this from perspective of somebody who's willing to take their time out of their life to actually go into the nitty gritty of what's wrong with their game, in my opinion, and what could be improved, because I want this game to be great. Here, look at the greatness that's going on here. I want this. So hopefully we can get to this point, and I think it can get to this point, but it's going to take some fixing, quite a bit of fixing, and not so much adding more things to the game, but more a lot of fixing how things currently work and capturing it within the game, whatever it is, whatever Civ 5 had. This game does not have it yet. So fixing things and then providing something that makes this game truly interesting and truly a game you want to play again. Beyond Earth Rising Tide does not have that yet. Alright, so why did I give this game a 79%? Well, so the hybrid affinities aren't fleshed out. This is quite clear by the fact that, they don't have as many units, all this other stuff. There's still too few units overall, so yeah, you don't have a great amount of unit diversity until like the very end game where you unlock all the units, and even then I think it could be more. And yeah, as I said, they don't have some of the planes, all this other stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be added in to make the battles more interesting. Maps remain too clustered. Yeah, you still have the issue of canyons and mountains in some places just randomly just taking up a whole continent and blocking you off from attacking somebody. That's not fun or entertaining. It's obnoxious and aggravates the issues of 1UPT, which people repeatedly complain about. And I keep telling people again and again, 1UPT is not the problem. The problem is its implementation. Okay, the map is not big enough for 1UPT to work well. If the map was bigger, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So, again, that's just my opinion. 1UPT is just something that needs to be worked on more, and it would help this game, but for now, I mean, the only thing you can really do, apart from completely changing the engine, which is not going to happen, is remove a lot of those canyons and things and put a lot less of them, because they're really annoying, and they just get in the way. And they don't add immersion, they just add annoyance, usually. So I would say be very careful with how much of the map generator puts those in, because they're obnoxious. And yeah, and still don't know why we have ice caps in this game. I think they're just annoying as heck and they take up too much space. But again, it's just me. Diplomacy is somewhat heavy-handed. Yes, I know this is being worked on, but I think that this way is a little bit dull and non-interactive. You want this guy to like you? Build a power plant. Oh, you want that guy to like you? Oh, build a satellite. It's kind of like that. I, I, I don't love the system very much. I think it could be done better. I think it could be in a way that where you interact more with people, kind of like in Civ 5. But yeah, I think you may really want to rethink that. It's not horrendous, but I actually liked the way that things in Civ 5 more. Now it's more kind of like, I have a problem, let me build something. I have a problem, let me build something. It's a little bit strange. In some ways it's okay, but I'll discuss it more later. Tweets, yeah, so the tweets are okay, or the communiques. They do add some immersion, and they do help, reinforce kind of your idea of what's going on, but they can be overbearing sometimes, they can be too much. And they need to not happen when you're at war with people, and that's not something you should care about. It's weird, and it's kind of immersion breaking when people keep telling you what you should be doing when you're already at war with them, things like that. Yeah, they can be a bit too much, but they are nice in moderation. And yeah, I'll talk more about that later. I'm going way too in detail. Water cities. Now these are actually alright, but I don't think there's anything that interesting about them. Yeah, you can move them slowly, and I understand that you don't want them to move quickly, but they don't have enough uniqueness to them. Adding some buildings into it and letting you move around a little bit is nice, but it's not everything. And everybody thought there would be more to them, and they would be more interesting. So as a major selling point of Rising Tide, I think water cities did not succeed. They were okay, but it was not enough to be really interesting. So I kind of wish there would be more to make them more unique. So again, it's gonna take a lot to make this game great, but you can reach it eventually. And I just want a final product that I can say is great. That's all I want as a consumer. I don't mind getting 2 expansions if that's what it takes. I've already invested in this game. I want this game to be awesome, and I want them to see it through. All right, so here's the topic today: affinities. So affinities, number 1, yeah, they don't feel finished at all. Again, one of the side issue I want to comment on is, as you can see here, is she appears to be purity harmony. Yes, purity. She appears to be purity harmony with these colors, like the units. But then she's supremacy. This is weird. Give real outfits to these people and give them backgrounds, please. This is just unacceptable. This needs to be done by now. I can't stand this background. Give us something sci-fi. This is boring. Looking at the background of her city is the most lazy thing you could have done. So yeah, just give them a background. I've suggested in some of my previous videos, have robots working in the background for supremacy purity or something like that. For harmony, have an alien being dissected in the background. Have something. And again, I've discussed this in one of my earlier videos. It's still tied to the tech web, and this is just incredibly frustrating. The point of the tech web, the main point is that you have the choice to go where you want. Tying affinities to it forces you to go A or B every time. It forces you to go into A, forces you to go into B. And some of the counter arguments I've heard when I've discussed this with people is on Civ Fanatics is they say, well, I mean, it's kind of interesting, you discover this technology and then you become more harmonious. And then you get to build that harmony building. Like, really? Is that interesting to you? I think that's all that does is funnel me into an option. Now, what you could do is let us research whatever technology it is, because tech is just tech. It doesn't mean you have to adopt the idea. Affinities are like an idea that transform you, right? Tech is different. It's what you research, what you gain knowledge on. It doesn't mean you adopt it. Just because I researched, I don't know, A or B doesn't mean I suddenly believe that that's the way that the world needs to be. So these need to be separated. And I feel like they did this because they're not ready to tackle this issue yet. Either that or they are literally in denial of this issue. But the tech, putting affinities onto the tech web doesn't do them justice. The affinities need to be the main reason people play Beyond Earth. And if you want them to have it, maybe affinities is the way to go. Show them, listen, you can be whoever you want. You can be this nation of A or B and have a fully fleshed out, epic affinity system that has a whole bunch of options and choices and truly guides your path. Don't try to, don't try to, how should I say, just tack them onto the tech web. It's very lazy and it's boring, and then you pick up points that you don't want sometimes. Like people don't want. Sometimes people are like want to roleplay. They don't want to be Harmony, but they have to take this tech. You see what I mean? You have to get some supremacy points to get computing, things like that, and that's not fun. We don't want to be guided. We don't want to be forced into doing into being harmony or being supremacy. We want to have that choice. That's a choice. Right now, those are not a choice to a great degree, especially early on. Yes, so there's my little rant. Alright, so hybrids don't feel finished. Alright, so one thing, I believe this was fan art, because obviously I don't think Firaxis did this. I believe somebody submitted this to Firaxis. I'm not sure exactly. But anyways, looking at this fan art, it's clear to me that somebody wants these to have their own unique, wants the hybrids to be their own unique thing. I suggest, for supremacy purity, you could put like this, like a robot typeface here. You could put that here. For purity harmony, you could put a different icon. You could go anywhere with this. And these hybrids need to be respected as their own ideologies, because they've stated they're their own ideologies. They've repeatedly said they're not a mix. For now, they're calling him a mix, like they're saying purity, supremacy, harmony, purity. But they've specifically said again, these are their own thing. Okay, they're their own thing. Call them their own thing. So give these a name and give them their own icons and show like these are a way you can go. And one of the things about Beyond Earth that's cool is that you can go into these affinities, but I think that dedicating yourself to one of these would be great early on. Just saying, okay, I'm going to go for this. And then just go full on into it. I think that would be a much better way to go about it. I don't think that you should be forced to, or you should be allowed to just dip left and suddenly go right and go left and go right. I don't think that's interesting. I think that gives you too many options, and I think it's kind of boring. How should I say? I'm not expressing myself well here, but I think early on in the game you should choose which affinity you're going to go for, and you should be put into that affinity, and it should stand on its own as the one thing you went for. I don't like this kind of dipping and diving between affinities, and suddenly you're purity supremacy, and suddenly you're this. That makes everything meaningless. If you have to commit to one of 6, you have 6 choices. If you have to commit to one of 6, it would be a far more interesting way to do affinities, in my opinion. So I'd say, maybe if you really want a way to reset and go back and then choose to go like, reset your affinities kind of like you would reset an ideology in Civ 5, then that'd be okay. But right now, I say that you have 6 options, that's enough. Pick a turn where you have to start picking things and going into things and make your final decision, and then let people go into whatever affinity they want, or pick one and stick to it. I think that's the way the game should be played. You pick your affinity and you go with it. You already have 6 choices. That's enough. You don't need to have 6 choices with choices to go in and out, and just change your mind, because that takes away from like the kind of uniqueness that you have. If you know that anybody could just suddenly jump in and be your affinity, suddenly jump in and be a hybrid, that really takes away from the fact that you made that choice early on and you decide to stick with it. So I think that needs to happen. Anyways, so this is kind of a little rant on the icons. Here the funny thing is, lack of hybrid units. Notice 3 of these carriers for the mains, not for the hybrids. I think they just didn't have time to add them in. I think they will. Not adding them in is a great mistake because it annihilates the immersion you have. It's like, hey, we have this purity supremacy, civilization with purity boats? What? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't mesh well. It looks weird. It looks half done. And I think that those things need to be included. Also, cities. Hybrid cities need to happen. And that's what I'm saying. If you make people dedicate to one of the 6 options that game, then you would be able to turn cities into hybrid cities. And you wouldn't have all this confusion about when does it turn into a hybrid, does it turn back into another city later, like all this BS. So, again, I'm saying the best solution to this is to make people pick. Now, you want to give more customization within the affinities later, you can do that if you want. But make them choose one. People had no problems choosing Liberty or Honor or whatever early on in Civ 5. Now, of course, they could go into A or B a little bit, and it was less defining. But if you want this game to stand on its own, you want this game to have a personality, let it define who you are, like in Alpha Centauri. Who you were was very defined. In this one, you get 6 options about who you are when you start. That's a lot more options. And guess what? People were okay with being the science guy straight from turn 1. They were okay with that. They made a decision. It made them unique. It made it interesting. It gave them personality. Hey, I'm the science guy. You're the Amazonian girl. You're the CEO Morgan, the industrialist, whatever, capitalist. Everybody had their own personality. That made you feel unique. This needs to happen in this game. You need to have an early choice on I'm going with this or that. No jumping ship from this to A to B to C to D to whatever. So I think that's one thing that needs to happen as well. And sometimes there are too many options for upgrades. And what I mean is like, oh, I want to go into this unit and then I want to get, suddenly, oh, I don't want to be full supremacy purity. I want a couple points in this, and then you have the true version of this unit and the version A, B, and C of each unit. Like, that was a good system for the base game where there were only 3 affinities, but now that you have hybrids, you don't need to do that. So you don't need to give all these half units, half of a half unit, like half of a hybrid, half of a pure unit. It's weird. Just give people one of that unit, okay? And then maybe you can give them a choice for what upgrade they want. I don't think that's necessary, but you can. But having 6 choices for what your unit's going to look like is enough, in my opinion. Give them maybe 1 bonus each, and then like that they can take for that unit and change as that unit upgrades. Kind of like how you have in that system with a plus 15% attack or plus health regen. You can give them that kind of bonus, but don't give it like every single level. It makes it so confusing and difficult to appreciate for people when you're fighting someone. Like you can't quickly tell what this unit is. Like, is this like a health increased unit? Is this a defensive version of that unit? It's hard to appreciate as a player when you see that unit. It's hard to. So make them a little bit more standardized, and maybe give them 1 upgrade and that's it. And make an icon next to it so people can see like, okay, these are healing supremacy soldiers, or oh, these are attack enhanced supremacy soldiers, something like that. Because right now there's just too many options, and within like the 1 unit there's like 8 million versions of it. If you look at all the different combinations you can do, so try to do that, and try to give each affinity their own unique bonuses. Don't mix and match too much. I think it's a bit of poor design. Something needs to be redone there because it's a bit weird, and I don't think it's interesting, and it makes affinities too similar in some ways. So I'd say figure something out there. Maybe give every single affinity an option, 2 options, or give like a universal upgrades that each affinity can pick from. You could do that too. Whatever, but whatever you do, just change the current system because right now it's poorly done. I would recommend give them their own like hybrid bonuses or something, but a universal bonus that they could all pick and choose from would be okay as well. I think that would be okay. But don't give them this weird duality. I think that that's strange. It tries to be cool, but it just ends up making units hard to appreciate in terms of their strength and the amount of bonuses they have. It's weird. It's overly complicated, and it doesn't add much to the game. It's overly complicated, and that doesn't add much to the game. That's the issue. So find a solution. Either, again, give them one or two upgrades that they can, or a couple upgrades that they can pick from, and let those be specific to those affinities, or give a universal table of upgrades that anybody from any affinity can choose from. One of those. But don't let everybody take one of this upgrade and one of that upgrade, and then the purity person has one of each, then the purity harmony person has one from purity and one from purity. It's so weird and confusing, and it doesn't make sense. So that stuff needs to be fleshed out and figured out. Yeah, this is kind of low quality picture, sorry, but you can see what I mean. Like, there will be a unit here. Well, this would have been really useful. There'll be like a unit with two. You see these two upgrades? So yeah, this one will have like two here, and then you come over here and you'll have that upgrade and another one, and you come over here, you'll have this one. It's very weird. I don't think it makes much sense, and I think it's again a symptom of the affinities not being fleshed out enough and not being used as a selling point for this game. The affinities are your selling point. Do more with them. Alright, enough ranting to that. Tech web and affinities. So again, these are tied together. And I think that, again, the issue here is that you get funneled into these. You want computing? Oh, guess what? You're getting these regardless of what you want them, whether you want them or not. You want supremacy? Oh, looks like the smartest thing to do is come here, grab this, 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 if you want to really level it quickly. Obviously 6 is the key point you want to get to, but it really drives your decisions more than your own choice. You don't really have the choice. And then there's the units here. The units should be, all these units and buildings should be chunked out of this, just chucked out, and put into their own affinity system that you can unlock. So I'd say the best way to do this is give us the science income and link it directly to the affinity progress without the restrictions of the tech web. So kind of like the Golden Age system in a way. Not in a very, okay, let's not even link it that way. That's just confusing. The more science you get, eventually you can unlock an affinity point. That's it. You keep your connection to these two systems, but on a very basic level. And then your tech will actually be about what you want to research, as opposed to, oh my god, I have to get this because I get an affinity point. That's poor design, and it defeats the purpose of the tech web. So please, for the love of God, link these, but don't link these. Or, yeah, link these, but don't link these, okay? That's the best way to do it if you want to give players the freedom to go where they want. Because right now we don't have it. Right now, if we want to play optimally and win games, which is what people want to do, a lot of times your fan base can be reasonably progress through the game and get better. You don't want to be playing around here. You want to be getting the best things. And you don't want to be getting points of stuff you don't want, which is impossible with this system. So the system is very poor at what it does. Again, this is what I was trying to illustrate. Give us a system like this or like this, but more fleshed out than these, because this is your, again, affinities are the selling point. So what you want to do is create a system where you have different levels. It could be like this, but and then like each time you reach a level, you unlock maybe some new buildings. You unlock, the visual version, the more visual points of your affinity. Your cities start looking different. You start unlocking units as you work your way down, and there could be requirements like this too. If you want to have requirements, that's okay. You could do that. You don't have to. You could just have it as levels, but. And then every time you put your science in, you click, like, okay, I want to put my science in. Click, 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 like that. There you go. And that way you have your own decision on how you want to create your own, your own affinity. And you could even have a system where you unlock levels and then you unlock specific things within your affinity. Or you could have just level unlocking. Just click and you unlock the level. Okay, what do I have now? Okay, keep teching up. Your science keeps coming into your tree, and you keep adding the points in to level up. I think that's the best system. and it needs to be even more fleshed out than this if you really want it to stand out. So I'd say a more fleshed out version of social policies. And also, I don't think these little bonuses are fantastic. Use these sparingly for your new system. And yeah, I'd say that would make for a great and interesting system, since affinities are what you want to are the selling point of the game. All right, next time we're going to talk about the lack of unit diversity. I didn't have a bigger picture to illustrate that, but I guess this one just is more about the progression of units being so sudden in a lot of senses. But yeah, there's not enough unit diversity, and there's not enough tiers. 4 tiers is not enough, and the game is too short. But anyways, I'll prevent ranting here, but there are not enough unit types, and it oversimplifies the game. Alright guys, well, I'll be back hopefully soon to discuss more about Rising Tide and the many different topics I have. As you can see, I went A through G, so I'm going to start to go through these. I'm going to try to hit up people on Twitter, developers, and kind of link them this video and see what they think, and hopefully they'll pay attention, because my guess is if I was them, I'd be working on the next expansion now. So that means that they're making the big decisions early, and this is why I wish I had, released this earlier. But I hope they look at this, and I hope they see some of the things that they can really work on. That's also why I mentioned so many topics in a little bit more detail in this video, because I want them to see it. Yeah, so, alright guys, see you next time. Bye.